You've become an inattentive housekeeper. There's grime in the corner. You're meant to be a homemaker, so you must improve. If I discover grime again, I'll vend your laptop. As my profession as a graphic novelist expanded, my spouse began to disregard me. During my manuscript deadlines, he would pester me, become fastidious about domestic tasks, and occasionally compel me to repeat the tidying. It appears my spouse desires me to be the quintessential homemaker, yet being a graphic novelist has been my aspiration since childhood. I am unwilling to abandon it. Additionally, I suspect my spouse is concealing something from me. I doubt I can absolve him. I am Emma, 31 years of age. I'm a self-employed graphic novelist. I produce graphic novels and, concurrently, I manage the household. My spouse, Jack, is 35. Our marriage has lasted 6 years. Upon our matrimony, we concurred that I would be a full-time homemaker. 2 years into our marriage, my parents deceased. I was their sole offspring. Thus, Jack and I relocated to the dwelling I inherited. I remained reluctant to cease working on my graphic novels, which I've pursued since my student days. I could have embraced the role of a full-time homemaker, but my aspiration is to sustain myself through my graphic novels. Presently, I am only engaged in light-hearted graphic novels. Can I work remotely? I inquired of Jack. He responded, "It's merely a pastime, correct? I suppose it's permissible." Hence, I persisted in working on my graphic novels even subsequent to our marriage. 6 months prior, one of my graphic novels garnered attention from a periodical editor. It was featured as a 2-page spread. Thereafter, I began receiving solicitations from other periodicals, and my timetable became replete with graphic novel deadlines. However, when I apprised Jack, he was displeased. "You've been prospering lately, haven't you? You're merely a domestic spouse. Your graphic novels are for amusement, correct? And your remuneration is akin to a juvenile's allowance, isn't it?" "Why do you utter such things, Jack? I am aware you do not peruse graphic novels. But this has invariably been my aspiration. Indeed, the occupation may not yield substantial income presently, but I am still compensated. I am a professional. You ought not to condescend to me in such a manner." When I asserted myself, Jack's vexation intensified. "How can you articulate yourself thus when I am the one who provides? If you have a grievance, await until you surpass my earnings." I was nonplussed. I relied on him. My occupation did not generate significant income, approximately $600 monthly. Jack would only engage with me when I was engrossed in deadlines. "You're being inattentive. There's grime in the corner. You're a homemaker, so rectify it. If I discover grime again, I'll vend your laptop." I comprehended he was not earnest, but I remained apprehensive. I ultimately devoted so much time to tidying that I missed my deadlines. Jack's annoyance escalated, leading him to critique every minor task, which was exasperating. One evening, Jack returned from his occupation. He possesses a routine of consuming supper promptly upon his arrival. That night, as usual, he sat, ingested some victuals, and abruptly vociferated from the culinary area. "Hey, what is this? The radish is inadequately cooked. Are you serious? Is this what you present to your spouse after he returns fatigued?" I was still disoriented after meeting a deadline, but his vociferation startled me. I addressed Jack. Just then, Jack grasped his beer and disgorged it all over me. My mind went vacant. I never envisioned someone would douse me with beer. It astounded me profoundly. "Oh, I apologize. I must have been inattentive while cooking. Everything else should be satisfactory, so merely omit the radish." During the culinary process, I realized I had neglected to cook the radish, and in my haste, merely incorporated it into the stew without parboiling. I ensured the potatoes were satisfactory, but the radish entirely eluded my recollection. I do not typically commit such oversights, and I felt profoundly mortified. It appeared Jack was unable to pardon me for the oversight either. "It's deplorable that I have a spouse who cannot even manage domestic tasks adequately. I should never have wedded you." Jack arose from the table and proceeded towards the bedchamber. I promptly pursued, but he entered the bedchamber and packed a travel bag. "Where are you departing?" I'm departing until you express remorse. What? I was utterly perplexed and did not comprehend his meaning. Jack packed his travel bag and actually vacated the residence. I pursued him, and upon Jack reaching the proximate station, he entered a taxi and departed. I telephoned him repeatedly, but he did not answer. I even dispatched an apology via WhatsApp, but he did not even peruse it. I prostrated myself and commenced lamenting. It was then that I sensed a tap on my shoulder. I pivoted and it was Mr. Williams, Jack's superior. I previously worked at the same enterprise as Jack prior to our matrimony. Mr. Williams had also been my superior, and he had consistently endorsed my vocation. When I initially joined, Mr. Williams, I'm a section chief now, you know. It's been a while since your nuptials, hasn't it? Why are you lamenting? You reek of alcohol. Did you partake in libations whilst donning your apron? Oh, it has been a while. I'm so mortified to articulate this, but Jack and I had an altercation. Oh, he can be somewhat abrasive at times, can't he? It's one matter if it's merely occupational concerns, but when you're wedded and cohabitating, that's when matters can truly become irksome. Mr. Williams bestowed a smile upon me, and it evoked recollections of the numerous instances this smile had aided me when I committed errors at the workplace. We resolved to proceed to a nearby eatery to converse for a while. So why were you lamenting? Are you one to readily weep? Well, it's my culpability. I erred in the culinary preparations today. I concocted stew, but solely the radish was inadequately cooked. That incensed Jack. Ah, I comprehend. My spouse is similar. Occasionally occurrences simply transpire. There's no necessity to become incensed. It merely estranges us, you know. That's a sagacious notion. So you did not have an altercation subsequent to consuming libations? No, I was the one who ended up drenched in alcohol because Jack disgorged beer on me after he became incensed regarding my culinary skills. I believe it has desiccated presently, though. When I hastened to the station, I could still discern its scent on me. Individuals informed me I reeked of alcohol, but I could not truly ascertain myself. He disgorged beer on you merely due to some culinary mishap? There's something amiss with Jack, isn't there? I invariably perceived him as somewhat of a bore, but I cannot conceive he would perpetrate that upon his spouse. That's incredulous. Mr. Williams appeared genuinely perturbed, almost as if he had been the one drenched. It engendered a slight amelioration in my spirits. So, why did you proceed to the station? Did you traverse all the way hither in your apron on account of Jack? Yes, because Jack was behaving erratically. He referred to me as a deficient spouse and declared he was vacating the residence until I repented. I pursued him to the station, but he entered a taxi and departed. I was at a loss for words. Mr. Williams, who had been irate earlier, abruptly assumed a grave demeanor. Following a moment of taciturnity, he articulated, I cannot divulge anything presently, but I harbor a foreboding regarding this. I shall investigate Jack. He may have abandoned something at the residence, so you should scrutinize. I concurred, not entirely comprehending but placing my trust in him. We concluded the day, and Mr. Williams conveyed me homeward. As Mr. Williams recommended, I scrutinized the shelves Jack frequently utilized and examined his garments. Within the pocket of his trousers, I discovered a hotel loyalty card. It had been utilized recently, and the card indicated it had been employed around midday on Saturday when Jack had informed me he was working on his day of leisure. I was convinced Jack was engaged in infidelity. Subsequently, I recollected something I had not contemplated in a prolonged duration. Prior to our matrimony, we had experienced one of those instances where we misplaced our telephones. We had jested about how it would be advantageous to utilize each other's telephone GPS to locate one another. Jack had configured an application to track our telephones, and I completely overlooked it. I initiated the application, inputted the password, and we located Jack's telephone in a startling locale, a renowned tourist destination celebrated for being a favored dating spot. It was arduous to conceive he would traverse there unaccompanied. I deduced that Jack was likely on an excursion with his clandestine paramour. The subsequent day, I contacted Mr. Williams at the Enterprise. Mr. Williams, thank you for yesterday. No problem. Did something occur? Did Jack not present himself at the workplace today? There was a pause, and following a profound sigh, Mr. Williams responded. Yes, he requisitioned 4 days of remunerated leave, commencing today. I surmised as much, I stated. I am loath to articulate it, but he's likely. I am aware, but presently I feel more composed. Thank you. After terminating the call, I reached a determination. I had been contemplating it for a while. If Jack was engaged in infidelity, I was going to take action. I contacted someone and elucidated everything. As soon as I informed him about Jack, he promptly supported me. I terminated the call feeling solaced, assured that matters would resolve favorably. The subsequent day, I proceeded with some individuals to the locale the GPS had indicated. It was within a resort, hotel proximate to a popular tourist destination. Presently, it appeared Jack was exterior to the hotel, as the GPS indicated him at a nearby beach. When Jack discerned my countenance, he blanched. With a smile on my countenance, I pointed my finger at him and captured a series of photographs. I desired to obtain an image of him and the youthful woman standing adjacent to him. She appeared to be in her early 20s. By the way, 30 minutes earlier, Jack had been in a bathing suit with that girl. I even managed to capture images of him applying sunscreen to her. I permitted them to persist until I possessed sufficient evidence that Jack was engaged in infidelity. The two of them were so carefree, perhaps even inebriated, because they were osculating in public. By that juncture, I was not astounded whatsoever. It was as if I had already endured enough of the situation. In fact, I was somewhat grateful to them for furnishing me with irrefutable proof. Jack was clearly startled, and his blanched countenance was not solely attributable to discerning me. Behind me were my in-laws, both of them glaring at Jack. "What is transpiring here, Jack?" I approached him with a smile, and either he panicked or he stumbled in the sand and collapsed onto his posterior. My mother-in-law sighed when she witnessed this. "Jack, you're pathetic. Who is this girl? What are you perpetrating, abandoning your spouse unaccompanied?" Jack swiftly endeavored to defend himself. "She does not perform any domestic tasks." He was flustered, pointing a digit at me as he accused me. "Oh, truly, that's fallacious. Even if she did not tidy occasionally, she still performed laundry, culinary preparations, and dishwashing daily. Mom assists with tidying occasionally, too. I dislike performing laundry either, and occasionally I entrust it to Dad." "That's because you work part-time, correct? She does not. She's merely a homemaker who sketches and dallies, so why can't she at least manage the domestic tasks?" Jack's words infuriated my father-in-law. "You do not comprehend it whatsoever." Even individuals surrounding us were commencing to stare. Some were even recording with their telephones. I proposed, "Why don't we proceed to a more secluded locale to deliberate this?" Everyone concurred, so my in-laws and I proceeded to a nearby eatery first. Jack and his paramour changed out of their swimwear into conventional attire, and subsequently the five of us convened to converse. We commenced by hearing Jack's perspective of the narrative. I desired Emma to be a full-time homemaker, but she embarked on the frivolous pastime of sketching graphic novels and disregarded her domestic tasks. I admonished her repeatedly, but she simply would not heed me, so it's only natural that I commenced seeking someone else. Correct? Mitch, the girl Jack had been seeing, interjected, contradicting him. "Isn't that disparate from what you imparted to me? You possessed a stalker at your residence, and you were distressed, so you requested me to assist you in overlooking it for a while. When I proposed you summon the constabulary, you stated it was merely a matter of time before they apprehended him. If you were wedded, you ought not to have dated me in the first instance." Mitch commenced lamenting after articulating that. Apparently, she was still in college and encountered Jack on a dating application. She informed me she was attracted to elder men, but now regretted becoming involved with him. "I apologize. I shall never contact Jack again. I've comprehended my lesson, and I shall not permit myself to be deceived subsequently," she stated, genuflecting profoundly to me and my parents. She exhibited us her telephone, where she expunged Jack's number, then deposited currency on the table before departing. I glared at Jack, who appeared panic-stricken by Mitch's abrupt departure. It's logical that I wouldn't execute everything you request, correct? I possess sentiments and a life too. I am not your automaton to manipulate. It's repugnant that you engaged in infidelity merely because matters did not proceed according to your desires. Jack parted his lips to articulate, but my father intervened. You do not appear to comprehend, do you? I am the one who labored to support Emma, so she should venerate me, correct? Dad calmly addressed Jack, whose ire was palpably escalating. You're behaving like a juvenile. You're merely throwing a tantrum because matters aren't proceeding according to your desires. You need to respect Emma's choices. There's nothing further to articulate. Dad arose and settled the bill, departing the eatery with my parents. Jack and I were left unaccompanied. I possessed nothing further to articulate. Jack, I secured a publication in a graphic novel periodical. Jack gazed at me with a perturbed expression. Congratulations. Music. I cannot be the homemaker you desire any longer. I apologize. I am weary of being with you. I desire a dissolution of marriage. I apologize. I apologize. You can persist in sketching graphic novels, and I shall assist with the domestic tasks. I shall not lodge complaints any longer, Jack implored. Lachrymose. However, I could no longer countenance him. I did not desire to behold this pathetic individual who had once been my spouse. I apologize, but it's no longer about that. You condescended to me, didn't you? I believed we were equals, but you did not perceive it thus. You presumed you were in a superior position, merely because you labored to support me. No, you were correct. I've altered my perspective. I pledge I shall not render matters arduous for you any longer. Please do not abandon me. I've resolved to vend the dwelling we inhabited. I possess a relative who operates a real estate agency, and he concurred to acquire it promptly. There are still some formalities to conclude, but it shall be resolved expeditiously. I am cognizant I shall receive less for it than if I employed an agent, but it's my dwelling, and I can dispose of it as I desire. I wish to sever ties with you as promptly as feasible. I am departing on the morrow, and I desire you to vacate that dwelling as expeditiously as you can. With that, I arose and proceeded towards the egress. It was the antithesis of the day Jack vacated the residence. Presently, it was he pursuing me desperately, as if endeavoring to impede me. However, when I entered the automobile, my parents had already arrived. My dad, seated in the driver's seat, initiated the automobile as soon as I slammed the door shut. Jack pursued the automobile, lamenting, but I could no longer discern him. It appears he did not believe anything I articulated, because when he returned from his excursion, he discerned that all my possessions were absent. He contacted me, lachrymose. I answered the telephone as a final act of clemency. Why did you vend the dwelling? It's ours, correct? A peculiar inquiry, isn't it? I inherited this dwelling from my parents. Even then, I possessed the entitlement to it. You possess no claim to my inheritance. If you comprehend that, then vacate my dwelling and solicit an amicable dissolution of marriage. You shall hear from my legal representative, so do not abscond. I articulated everything I needed to convey and terminated the telephone call. Subsequently, Jack was rebuked by Mr. Smith for utilizing his remunerated time off to embark on an excursion with his paramour. I heard that he did not technically require a rationale for taking time off, but the fact that he engaged in infidelity and went golfing was something his superior severely interrogated. Jack was now facing frigid gazes from his colleagues at work and subsisting an uncomfortable existence. My parents also relinquished him. Jack endeavored to return to his parental residence, but they rebuffed him. He forfeited currency due to alimony payments, descended into indebtedness, and was subsisting unaccompanied in an economical apartment, incapable of managing any domestic tasks. Subsequently, Mr. Smith apprised me of it, but I did not experience any emotion. As for me, I relocated to a resplendent one-bedroom apartment, and I am engrossed in laboring on a plot for my graphic novel series. I am researching various omnibus works as references. The subsequent narrative I am intending to sketch is concerning a spouse's infidelity, and I am contemplating utilizing Jack as inspiration.